Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Witches Roundtable. What's brewing? This is the second episode. Last episode, if you've seen it, you know that. And in this recording or in this episodes or with the witches, we usually go down several rabbit holes, but that's okay. That's what we do because we're here for it. And we're here to talk about everything that goes on in this world and that we feel like is important that we need to talk about. Just to get started, we decided to start talking on the topic of religious trauma. And I know we will probably, again, go down a rabbit hole, talk about other stuff, but that's what we start out with. And I want to welcome everybody in. And I'm just going to get started to talk a little bit about that. Just a little bit about myself. If you notice my accent or if you know me, I grew up in Europe. I grew up in Germany. I was also raised Catholic, and I know the topic of religious trauma is, I hear that all the time. I hear that a lot, and I could never figure out what that means because I, for myself, can honestly say I don't have any, or I'm so programmed that I don't notice or have not figured out what that means for me. So it's it's one of those two. But I have to say, when I first moved to the United States in 2001, it was right after September 11th, I was trying to enroll my two girls who were like 8 and 5 at that point. I was trying to enroll them in Catholic school because that's what I knew. So I thought I'll do the same for them after we moved. When I went to that Catholic church in that city where we moved to, I was treated with so much disrespect, and I could not figure out why that was. It took me a long time to figure out that maybe because I'm a woman, but I never experienced that before. I was just so shocked and flabbergasted by this priest who treated me like I'm nothing. So this is the first time really that I noticed that religion is not great for everybody, or it doesn't treat everybody the same. It's not always loving and kind the way I thought it should be. When I came to this church and I asked this priest to show me around, he just took me to the kindergarten area and he left me there. He just left me there. And he's like, you just look around and then just let me know if you want to come back or not. And I'm like, I will never be back to this place. Never. And it's like, and that's when I enrolled my kids in public school, and it was Olathe public school. So it was great. It was perfect. But this was the first time for me when I thought I will never step foot into this church again, and I can't say that it was trauma, but that's the first time when I realized there is a difference, I guess, maybe between countries or continents or maybe even cultures. I don't know. Okay. But and I've never been back since, and that just really turned me off. But I think religious trauma means different things to different people. So if you guys have different views, I want to open up the floor to you guys to tell me what it is that you experienced or how it affected you in your life.
I just want to say that feels like a terribly American experience, Bettina.
It really does. It really does. It's like that. Yeah. Very much
I've never, nobody ever treated me like that before in a church. I couldn't figure out what it was. And I thought, was I rude? Did I not say, was I not nice enough? I couldn't figure it out,
It's very interesting for you to say that because that surprises me to hear because I feel like misogyny and women being less than is something that has been the base of religion that I've known and that I was taught, from the very beginning. And so, and I know that we all have our different, I know that I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. Colette grew up
Southern Baptist.
Yikes. Dawn, I can't remember. What did you grow up?
I had quite a few experiences. My grandmother was Catholic, so if I spent time with her, I had to go to Mass.
Right.
And then my mother, in her religious trauma, bounced around from, different denomination or flavor or whatever. And so there was Baptist and there was Methodist and there was the Unity Church out there,
Mm-hmm.
and all the iterations therein.
Yeah.
But my experience, I have two experiences with religion. One is the community that is built among the people, right?
Right.
But the other is just, I can't see it as anything other but the subjugation of women. They use it to control men too, but men reap the benefits, I think, of the power structure inside of organized religion, because it's usually always God, men, women, children. Like they, put those umbrellas
Right.
up, and there's a hierarchy there.
Right.
And I don't think that really changes no matter what flavor you're
Right.
experiencing. Some are more open than others, but a lot of it that I experienced was just control. They used it to control my mother to keep, I mean, letting a man abuse her,
Right.
and told her to obey this man. Like, are you serious? He's abusing her and
Right.
her children, and your answer to her when she tells you this is to obey her husband?
Right.
Like, so
Well, and like that talks about when you mentioned your mom's religious trauma, because the way that um, trickles down, even when you think that your parents are trying to do it, like my mom did the same thing where she went to a couple different things, and went to a couple different churches, started off Southern Baptist and then tried to do Adventist, and then um, ended up being more spiritual. But I was raised in the church because of my grandma. So my grandma paid for me to go to private school. She's the one who took me to church. And while she is was my favorite person in the whole world, I, I still have all of that trauma that then, trickles down. And then realizing now that my mom was dealing with her own set of it, which is why she just kind of let me go with my grandma while she was trying to figure out her own things. So
I guess religious trauma is not always just a direct thing. It could be like an indirect, or like like you said, like a trickle down effect,
yeah,
where
and
it's being done to
it's
other
so,
people, and then you're being raised by somebody who has experienced that.
yeah, yeah. And so then, and so then you go and it trickles down in a way where I didn't want to send I didn't want my kids to go to church at all. At the same time, I wanted to give them the openness to choose if they wanted to do the things or whatever. But it was very hard for me when, to ever let them try things on their own, because I was scared of what I had been through.
Well, what exactly is it? I mean, like I said, I can't really relate that much, but I was wondering what it means to have that religious trauma. Is it like that you're afraid of something, or is it like, are you avoiding things? Do you have triggers, or how does this manifest in you?
All of that.
All of that.
All of those things.
Okay.
So just a funny segue is one of the triggers is there is a store that I like to frequent, and they play the religious station. And so I can try to block it out. I can go through the whole, okay, I'm going to clear my energy and I'm going to get myself ready to go into this. And it's so deeply programmed that I will have like a visceral reaction. I will be uncomfortable. I'll start to have anxiety, but at the same time, I'm humming along. You know what I mean? Like, because I can't help.
Yeah.
Because it's so deeply ingrained.
Wow.
And I can't spend more than 20 minutes in that store without.
it's like Christmas music and shit.
Now, Christmas music there's like a weird different thing with me with Christmas music. Like I somehow can disconnect the religious trauma from Christmas music. I think it's my grandma again, but so like the feel I have of Christmas music is not the same as if I hear like Michael W. Smith in the store, right? So, or
a little Amy Grant on the
side. Amy Grant while you're shopping, And see, that's another thing that's funny is Rox grew up she didn't grow up in any religion at all. So when we make these jokes and these references, goes completely over her head. because she doesn't.
I have no
She
idea.
doesn't, and it's interesting because it really does show the deep programming that happens when you are telling these stories. Because we'll talk about something, and her jaw will drop, and she thinks we're joking, and we're like, no, 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 no. A hell house is a real thing. Like Colette had to do that, you know. And I'm like, no, I did have to burn all of my CDs when I was 14 because they were
Are you
of the
serious?
devil.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
God.
I know. So it's very all over the place because it's so deep. There's so many little things that had happened that it took me years to
The
even
most
realize how deep
horrid
the trauma
abortion
was.
photos I've ever seen were shown to me by a youth group. You know,
Seriously.
like seriously,
So,
like
so one
photos,
of the
unnecessary things to.
yeah.
And I have a theory, and my theory is that they use fear to control
Yeah.
people,
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, for sure,
and
for sure.
That's why
you
you are a
know
God
it's
fearing
a
person,
Yeah,
yeah.
God theory.
especially being an outsider
You know,
and
this
just
thought, whether it's hell, you know, some religions are more hellfire and brimstone than others, but at the end of the day, this is a, you know, vengeful God that if you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, maybe he's going to punish you, and maybe he's, you know what
Right,
I mean? And so
right.
it's
that
just
is
this
amazing.
fear
Definitely.
It's
of
not maybe he'll punish you. It's
he
you.
will.
He
Yes.
will.
Yes.
He will. And as a child, I know I spent a lot of time, even though my religion that I grew up with didn't believe in heaven in the way that some other religions do. They made it very clear that if you didn't follow and you didn't believe, that you would be left behind for the second coming, and you would, or if you were the one who did believe, but your mom or your loved one didn't, then you're going to literally watch them be left behind and you can't be with them. And that's
Oh,
the
I would
fear that they
posit there's a whole
install.
bunch of people who don't truly believe that
Right,
there's a sky daddy
right,
making
right.
all this, you know, that
And
this is all his
so,
will, like, but they are not going to walk away from that because it is their community, it is their
Yes.
family, it
Yes.
is how
Right?
they
Yes.
were
Just like
raised,
Eddie calls
what they were like.
that is isolation.
yeah, and so that's true because like I spent 12 years of private school at the Seventh Adventist schools. I spent 19 years going to church. I stopped when my grandma died. I met my husband in private school, and so he comes from a different type of religious trauma because his mom was even more deep into the church than my mom was. And so where was I going with that? I lost it. It's gone.
That's okay.
I was wondering when that would happen. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
About the different types of religious trauma, at least I know it's going to say that as far as feeling like like you were saying, the fear,
Mm-hmm.
like that was something that was instilled in me so young that I actually went through a few years of like religious OCD as a child, where I would lay there in bed and I would not be able to go to sleep because I was afraid that God had known something that I had done wrong, and I was gonna. I mean, I would not. I was like ill. I could not sleep. Always worried about like your loved ones getting left behind, or being taught that your animals wouldn't go to heaven, and that kind of thing.
Aw.
This is the kind of thing that I didn't really realize. How deep the religious trauma was until I got a lot older, and I started
Well, because you
realizing
don't
little
realize what's
things.
not normal,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah,
Like
exactly it.
yeah,
if everybody in your sphere, think about this as a
yeah,
child, if your parent is saying, hey, did you say grace before you eat, reinforcing every single thing that is happening in that religion, right?
right.
How as a child are you going to be like, oh, my parents are stupid and this is ridiculous? Like,
Well, and
you're
like,
that's not going to be your response. Your response is going to be, this is normal, this is
Yeah.
right.
what
And
we
so, like, even
do.
as a
And it's
child,
not
when I
until
had
you're exposed to the outside world, especially if you're in Christian schooling,
yeah,
like
Mm-hmm.
you
yeah,
really don't realize what you're not,
yeah,
you know,
for sure, because it's just a circle of people that are around you. And even though
the
growing up,
bubble.
I always felt different in the fact because I didn't believe it, but I didn't never really, everyone's like, oh, I felt Jesus talk to me, or, oh, and my friends would have these moments, and it wasn't something that I was really like buying into, but I did all the things I was supposed to, you know what I mean? And so I just would, when I was younger, would have those worries and those fears, because what if it was true? Like, what if it was true? Then I need to follow the rules just in case it's true.
I did fully buy into all of it, and it took me. I stopped going to church when I went through my teens, and it took me until I was in my late 20s to actually fully just be like, I'm finally just done.
Yeah.
Like I finally just I don't believe in this. Like, it's that whole progression of realizing things are wonky.
Right.
Not fully believing, and then moving into finally being able to walk away.
And what's crazy is there's another thing after that, is you think, okay, that's it, but it's not. I walked away from church easily and happily when I was 19 or 20, because when my grandma passed away, I was like, okay, well, there's no reason for me to go to church anymore. And so I was like, I'm done. I've never lived this life anyway. This is already, and so I was out. But it didn't really hit me until I was in my mid-30s, before I started understanding different levels of things behaviors or things that just happen, or that I think, or that I do, because of the way that religion has shaped me and that's the brainwashing, and that's the, subconsciousness, because, like, again, I'll just be in the store singing along while also almost having like a heart attack. Like, I'm like, why don't I feel good? Like, what's wrong? And I'm like, hallelujah. Oh yeah, I need to get the fuck out of here. So it's really crazy, because it doesn't just end when you leave the church. However, everyone has process of things differently. And then as I've moved into being, I moved into being spiritual, and all of that. But it really makes you understand how much was taken from you at a young age. So much was taken from at a young age, and you don't really piece all that together until you get to a certain adult age, and you start like seeing, like the things that you're lacking as an adult. You're like, why do I feel this random shame?
Right.
Yeah. Like,
where did that come
from? And it's so deeply ingrained. And
wow.
Yeah.
I want to know from Rocks, and I'm sorry, Don. I want to know from Rocks, like, I mean, do you feel you're better off that you were raised like without all that influence? Do you think you had a better or more happy upbringing, or what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I really do, because I feel like I grew up in the like being spiritual, and then I grew up like in the metaphysical community, and so and now like learning and doing all the things and connecting with different things, realizing like how much it's so fear-based and it's shame-based.
Really?
And so it really is. It seems like with all of the organized religions, it creates like this fear, and then it also creates the shame, because you if you're not this or this,
It's
then
about
you're
control.
going to the suspicious hell. And so then people have this deep rooted shame that they can't be who they are.
And it flows into the spiritual community, because a lot of the spiritual community has still got that, not a lot, so much of the spiritual community has still got that connection where they have the fear of, or the shame of feeling like they're not in control, and they're going to upset, and they're going to, you know what I mean? And so it is interesting, because she'll see that part of it in the spiritual and the metaphysical community, whereas Colette and I will immediately recognize it as religious, like a religious trauma. That's how they're acting from that base, and she sees it from a totally different standpoint. Like she's, it doesn't. We automatically are like, oh, yep, that's religious shame. They're probably deconstructing out of religion, which is a whole nother
common.
Yeah.
It's actually so common. I feel like in the metaphysical community, I feel like we've seen it a lot. People who are escaping some sort of, religious
organized religion,
and they're just looking for something to hold on to. And they still, there's a lot of deprogramming that you have to do. And that shame, like I said, that shame is such a powerful tool. It hides in deep crevices you'd never even know, you know?
Yeah, you really think like, oh, I'm doing good and I'm being
Right.
confident
And
then
you are doing good and you are doing confident, and then bang, it hits you like a freight train.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's just like, where did that come from? And it's shame in all areas, you know, just, and then this, especially, I mean, in all churches, but I know in the Seventh-day Adventist church, the shame of your sexuality, like in any way, shape, or form. Like we were just basically, you know.
Right. It seems like there's all these like rules and restrictions on like enjoying your life and being
enjoying your life. That's exactly
That's
it.
true.
Yes, like like karma is a real thing, and if you are a shitty person and you hurt people and you are like maliciously doing these things, yes, dude, you're gonna have karmic things and you're gonna have all that stuff. But like just to be gay, just to be like
there's a lot of
different things, like different things, want to express yourself different ways.
I was very
it's all like it all makes people feel bad, like they're not supposed to do these things. And then it creates this hate towards other people that are freely doing it because they're like, oh, you're not supposed to be doing that.
And the hate is jealousy because they're like, well, how come they get to be themselves and I don't? And so then that's where it starts in on trying to control other people.
And the part that upsets me is that those people aren't enjoying their lives because they think that they are preparing for something after this, some paradise where they're going to have all the things and do all the things and all their favorite people and shit's going to be there. And so they're sacrificing being their authentic self. And I'm not saying that, murderers should be, hey, go be your authentic self. But like when we're talking about, you know what I'm saying? When we're talking about
just be yourself.
But people use that.
And not being afraid to enjoy your life and do the thing. I mean, even especially sex. I mean, and who you're doing it with shouldn't matter. Like this shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, but it's a big deal because they can control people with it.
Yeah.
So all these people are just missing out on so much because they're afraid of the consequences that, in my opinion, will never come, that are the afterlife, going to hell,
Well, and that's the thing is that the people use religion and this, well, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness to be able to, do all the shitty things instead of having their own moral code, their own moral compass. And they're like, you know what? I'm not going to do that because that's a shitty thing to do. Instead, they just do shitty things. And then they're like, oh, I feel bad. I don't know what to do with it. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I can just, pray, and then I pray it away and then I'm good to go. And that's, and then that's the excuse. And that's also why you have a lot of people who, when they're in their dire straits or they've hit their rock bottom, go to religion because it's like the only thing that makes them feel like it's something outside of themselves that makes them feel like that they're worth more, as opposed to looking within. That's religion always wants you to look like we're not enough. Like,
I think if you need religion or if you need like a cult-like religion to tell you that if you are not a good person, you will go to hell. If you need that to prevent you from being a good person, I think you have a different issue,
Right. And then the whole time while they're behaving and they're not behaving like good people, right, in front of all the church members. And then while they're turning around and saying, behave this way, well, I know all the church gossip, I know that so-and-so is with so-and-so and blah, 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 blah.
Empathy. Churches aren't teaching empathy, and they're doing studies now where children who are not, in a religion, like a organized religion, have more empathy than children who are growing up inside of religion. And I think a lot of that is because they're taught that, that's God's doing. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is,
it's not up to them
whatever
to be good
atrocity
people.
is happening or whatever, you know what I mean?
They don't have to feel.
It kind of abhors them of a responsibility, towards their fellow citizens. I'm just, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and I also see it from like a different aspect too, like because the organized religion that they use with that particular god, I feel is like fictitious and just used for the control and the fear and all that stuff. While you have other like gods and goddesses and like different things that are legit. Those dudes are real. Like you have spirit guides, you have other deities that you know,
and
you can
white
call
supremacy
on.
came in and basically whitewashed anything that was not considered the main guy, you know, and not that other cultures have celebrated gods and goddesses of, you know, how many, all the different their different ways, but they came in and they're considered to be bad or evil or whatnot because it's only this one, and that's all the basis of the white supremacy coming in.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Completely. One
I
thing I
also-
want to go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine.
One thing I want to mention is like when I said I don't have religious trauma, I don't think I have any triggers. But one thing I just thought about was, you know, when I made the switch more from like being Catholic, and I don't feel anything. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't work for me anymore, and I'm just leaving it behind. But when I became more of myself, what I call a witch, or somebody who's like more a nature religion oriented, somebody who believes in like spells and manifestations and candle magic and all that. That's the one thing I never told anybody. I was always afraid because people always told me, shh, don't tell anybody, you know, don't talk about this. And it's like, or even at work, I would never tell anybody about anything because this is one thing I would never want to show people, you know, because I was afraid of what they would think. So that's kind of one thing that I'll have to say that kind of what religion taught me is like, you can't talk about those things. You know?
You're gonna keep it hush hush. And I did the same thing. I did PTA and Girl Scouts for a really long time, and I was very much front and center in my kids' schools. And I was very quiet about it because I didn't feel like I at that, you know, and again, it's like you said, you didn't think you had religious trauma, and then you're like, wait a minute, because that's the thing. There's so many little things that we don't realize that we do, and even as a society, because of, you know, because the way that religion has run our society in particular.
Yeah. And I think we're going down a really dark hole with that. But what I'm going to say is, and you all know my political views and I know your views, but I feel like right now the programming in the MAGA Christianity is so bad that I think that you can't even call it Christianity anymore because that's not what it is. I think they have their own cult now. They're programming their own children. They're just like brainwashing into believing that, you know, who is like God, he was sent from heaven and all of those things. I mean, this is not even Christianity anymore. And so I really feel for those children that are growing up with that religious trauma. You know?
I really think that
I will say
religion
though that
breeds that type of leader, right? Especially when you are taught not to question, you know, your higher ups, when you're taught to have faith in things, you know, without seeing, you know, and just following crazy thing. You know what I mean? Like you're already being taught to be obedient inside the structure of religion upon fear of hell. So then when your pastor says, hey, this guy is going to get you to heaven, well, what are you going to, you know what I mean? Like, and it's
so
very insidious because that Christian nationalism is real.
So like from the outside and then like learning about different things, like I feel like you cannot tell me that Donald Trump is not like the Antichrist.
That's what's so funny.
The different stories that people have been telling me about the religion here, it seems like, isn't this guy the guy? And how come you guys don't see this? Because they think it's going to be like
the golden gods, you know.
Like so those stories are playing out in different ways than what people are realizing. They're taking it as like literal, and when it's like it's playing out now with the different things.
And also kind of like when you said that it's a different kind of religion, you know, the MAGA people, I don't really think it is though. Like,
you don't think so?
I saw these kind of people when I was a kid in the
Really?
churches.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not real new to other people, like in that way in the church, the way that they think that they're better. And
they're just way more vocal about it.
They're just more vocal about it now. Yeah.
Okay.
So we hear about the racism. We hear about how much better they think they are. We hear about it. We see it now. They're more brazen. But like, it's always been that way. Because so like the school that I went to until I was before high school was super small, didn't have very much money. But then the school that I went to for high school was a private school in Shawnee, Kansas. And those kids had money. Those parents had money. And you got a lot of that. The we are better. We are, we're and it's the better of like, we're the ones who know the real God. So we're so much better than you. And they were just more quiet about it to the outside world. And inside the groups, though, inside Christian youth groups and all that, when we were younger, we were very much taught that we were better.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We were taught that we were better because that's the only way. I mean, how are you going to build everybody up?
How else are you going to do missionary work?
Missionary work. If you're not better.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, because our school every year did a mission trip, and it was such a big deal if we could afford to go to mission trip. Like if we could raise the money. One year I did it. The next year my husband did it, and I didn't do it because I couldn't afford to and I wanted to work. I remember them getting judged so hard because it was my senior year. They're like, you're not going to go on a mission trip because you don't want to take time off your job.
Oh yeah, don't be poor and a kid and a Christian.
Yeah,
if you can't go to camp,
if you can't go
to mission, if you can't go, and they're in your ear, they're in your parents' ear. Why can't you do this? Can we do a fundraiser? Can we do this? Can we tell the whole church that you're
the poor? Yeah,
and you need to be able to go to camp because we got to save the poor.
And you know what they would do to get us to go to camp? I can't remember what it's called. In-gathering. We would stand on the corner at the plaza, and I'm not joking, with a fucking can. I would really like to go to church camp this year. Could you help me by donating? And then they would bring us up in church the week, however many weeks, and they'd be like, Allison raised this much, blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
And so raised this much, da, 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 da. And my husband, who was one of 5 kids, they had him and his sisters sell encyclopedias door to door so that they could go to school.
Oh my God.
Like he tells that story like it's a joke. Like he's like, oh, I just like I'm like, your religious trauma is gonna hit you sometime, honey. Like,
Look,
but it's
can
like
you
that,
imagine what good they could do with all the money floating around?
I was just going to say that because I remember when I was married to my second husband, that was 15 years ago. His niece, I mean, I don't know what the occasion was. There was a big family reunion, and I met one of his nieces who just got married. They were like in their 20s, and all they could talk about is how she and her husband are going to South America on this mission trip for 1 year, and why can't we just donate to them? And when I looked it up, they had this whole website set up, and they needed to fund their whole trip and their whole stay for the whole year just to be a missionary. To go to South America. And I'm like, what do you do?
Let's be clear about what mission trips are. They're just colonialism in action.
I know. I didn't know
that.
You know what I mean?
I didn't know what that was.
We went to build a church.
And I said, what do you do down there?
I was 9 miles into Mexico from Arizona.
Yeah, and I'm like, do you donate? Do you help build anything? What do you do down there? And she's like, oh, no. We're trying to convert them to Christianity. I'm like, what for? Why don't you just give them the money that you're raising? I think you can help them a lot more. And they looked at me like a deer in the headlights. They couldn't figure.
Help anybody who's not Christian.
Who's not Christian, right?
Yeah, because Jesus will save them as soon as they convert.
Right.
And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my lifetime.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can't make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up.
And then if you could either afford to go to church camp, or you were so far down that you couldn't afford, but then they would sponsor you, so then you could go to church camp, which is how Patrick got to go to church camp.
Right.
Yeah. And I had to go to the in-gathering because our parents were quite poor.
Why do we need to go to church camp in Florida? I don't know.
Yeah, why? Yeah. Which church camp is a whole nother fucking bucket of, shit. Talk about religious trauma. Like, that's where you have all kinds of...
Have you guys watched The Righteous Gemstones?
No, where is that? What channel is that on?
It's a show on HBO. where it's about a very outlandish like church, like, and they do all of these things.
And when she tells the stories, I'm like, oh yeah, that's based on real.
That doesn't sound too far from the
Doesn't
truth.
sound off. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so
yes, they talk. It's like very on point for a lot of these things, and it has a lot of the stuff like that in there.
Yeah, but just to be fair, and I don't know what the I think it was on Netflix, and I don't know if any of you guys ever saw it or heard about it, but there's this couple out there, and in the name of metaphysics and in the name of twin flames, they're trying to coax or talk people into they're going to find their twin flame, and then these people have to marry that person, and they have to go to classes to figure out what a twin flame is and all of these things. And I can't remember what that show is called, but I think in every religion,
reality TV to me,
right?
Yeah,
sounds like a nightmare.
So I think in every religion there is somebody who does something that's really shitty, you know?
Yeah.
So I think if you want to be a good person, be a good person. You don't have to belong to anything. Just be kind and be good, be loving. And if you have money, donate it to people. You know, you don't need to go on a trip. You know, if you have money, go there, help build a school or a well or something, for God's
And
sakes.
if you don't have money, you have a community right here.
Exactly.
You could put boots on the ground and help your local community.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I don't
agree.
get either. Is like, why do people like helping out all of these faraway places instead of helping out their community?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if you can.
Well,
cool,
those same Christians
like,
are applauding while they cut USAID, saying, "Oh yeah, we shouldn't be taking care of all those people." Like, really? Because we're the richest nation in the world, and we should be definitely taking care of maybe all the people.
There's really not.
Well, and you know, there's a lot of, I don't even know how many different religious leaders were part of Project 2025, which is why. Yeah. And
basically,
so that's
like the whole evangelical wing is, you know, the Heritage Band Foundation and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, the Pope doesn't like him, but the Catholic Church is, you know, like, can you imagine the wealth inside of the Catholic Church?
Oh
like
my God,
inside of the Vatican, just the hoard, you know, the intelligence, the
Catholic Church spent a long time being the authority of the world, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I don't think I can make my brain actually piece together what they could do if they decided to work for good.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say people, but I think a lot of men join the church because this is a sure way of having a career and power. You know,
power.
Because
power and just a natural leg up because he's a man.
Yeah,
exactly. And it says in the Bible that that a woman was made from a man's rib. So we are told from the very beginning that we are less than and we are meant to be at his side.
Right.
And so that's just constantly put in. So yeah, if you're a man, you already have a one up because you're already considered to be more than.
Right. And you're told
and that's why you will see women deconstructing their faith before you see, like, you know what I mean? Men have a harder time deconstructing because that inherent power is there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Of course, you won't let go of something that is a sure thing. If somebody hands you something, you're not going to let go of it. You know, even if you know it's not right.
Right.
So
well, and then some of it is even more insidious because they use it to abuse, whether it's the women in their lives or or children. You know, I mean, it's rampant just because of the structure of religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of the men in religious like in a religion, they use that as their dating pool. And they don't just use it as a dating pool. They're like predatorily looking at the youth group girls that are growing up. And those are the ones that they are being predatory towards because, they may be a 20-year-old counselor and she's a 16-year-old camper, or he's an 18-year-old deacon and she's a 14-year-old who just so happens to be like the deaconess's daughter or something like that. They're in the choir
or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and some of it's even more insidious than that, where extremely older men are taking young women to be their wives more than one. You know what I mean? Like they really use that
It was kind of
across the board.
normalized in the church that I grew up in for a while. And the adults would like the adults that were the adults then would be like, what? But there was at least a dozen predatory 20 to 30-year-old men who like openly were watching all the youth groups and hitting on the girls and trying to sit with them, and it would always, and unfortunately I was part of the group that'd be like, oh,
Right?
Yeah.
Because they make it feel special.
she
They
likes
make
you.
feel
Oh, you get to
special.
sit with him. Oh, and
Right.
oh, did you see? He saw you, and he's like, and it's because he's the older guy,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he's the like
Fully
main
grooming.
guy, fully grooming.
That's grooming. That's called grooming. Exactly. Yes,
Yep.
Colette. You're right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And
I wonder-
personally, I was treated very much like slut shamed, and so I didn't do as much of the like looking for the attention when it came to like the dudes. But I did have, my mom, because I didn't grow up that way, because my mom wasn't. I had like earrings, or if I had like a sleeveless dress, I got in trouble in the summertime for wearing a dress with no sleeves, not strapless, not bikini, but no sleeves because it was.
Oh my God. Okay, one time, so I would be sent to my grandma's during the summers. And I don't think my mom realized this, but she was like trying to teach me how to be a good wife. I showed up one summer and my grandma was so appalled and I didn't understand why. And she took me and bought me an entirely new wardrobe because I had some like, spaghetti strap tank tops. I was like getting a little older. I was like 14.
Right.
And I was starting to pick out my own clothes instead of just having to deal with what my sisters gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, she got so upset. I got a full new wardrobe that summer.
Mm-hmm.
A very modest wardrobe.
That's hilarious. I had to take my ear pierced. My mom got my ears pierced on a whim when I was like 13, and it was in the middle of winter. And again, my mom wasn't part of the church, but my grandma was. But I was part of the school, so I go to the school, and they made me take them out. Freshly pierced ears, and I had to take them out, and I had to wait until I went the day school got out and got them pierced, and then took them out the day school started and put them back in like immediately after, like, yeah, like those kind of things.
The misogyny runs deep. I guess it's everywhere.
I had a boyfriend when I was 14 too, so that was like, that was a big deal. I got pulled aside for that.
Really?
Oh yeah, pulled aside for having a boyfriend because it was inappropriate to have a boyfriend at my age. Even though they didn't say anything to the boy who was also in the church and 2 years older than me.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Of course not.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, there's just so much to say. And I think as a woman, you always have to advocate for yourself. You have to find your community so other women can like support you and, point things out when you don't see when something is being done to you, because you don't always see it. You don't always know when something's happening to you. And then another woman says, hey, that's not right. And you're like, wait a minute, I think she's right. So,
right.
So I think as a woman, it is really important to have other women or other good women, good friends in your life that will always support you, be behind you and help you out with things.
And to be clear, like as much as I say about against religion, organized religion, like there's something to be said for the community inside of these places, the comfort people find in, the routines and the surety, you know what I mean? And
that was one of the things that I was a little bit, I had a hard time with when my kids were younger. I did kind of miss it a little bit when because we still have people my whole family is Adventist on one side still. And so, still going to the church camps and then the fun, vacation Bible school and like all the different things. And I used to be kind of sad about the fact that I didn't have that community at the time, but I didn't realize that you can create that community anywhere. Yeah. And I immediately was able to create a community like that within the public school with Girl Scouts and PTA, and then now past that into like the cannabis community and the metaphysical community, where I now have the more community than I could even have wished for.
Yeah.
More genuine.
Genuine community.
Genuine,
yeah,
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what it's all about.
Right?
That and the fear of death. Like,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
religion, not, you know. Well,
Oh,
because I
yes.
feel like a lot of times that's what it is. Like I have an aunt, and she's like, "Here's the deal. I understand that it may not be real, but I would rather do what I'm supposed to be doing if it turns out to be real, and it's not hurting anybody. I'm being a good person, right?
Right.
And then find out that it was real and I didn't do what I was supposed to be doing. Right. And so
Right.
there's that fear again, but it's really, it's fear of death, right? It's you're afraid of what's going, because you don't know what's coming, what's happening.
Well,
Right.
we
And
do.
and if they tell you this is what you're going to go to, this is what you're going to have, this is what you'll have all these things, then they know, they feel like they've got like a solid something to hold on to.
Right. You can
Yeah.
feel confident and feel comfort
Which is crazy because
in the
it does give the
unknown.
comfort, but it also gives the fear. Like I said, when I was a kid, I was always so scared of leaving my friends behind, or at the time leaving my parents behind, because my parents didn't go to church and my grandma was the one who took me to church, things like my brother would say a prayer request every single day, because of course we'd have to pray before class. Prayer in schools, not a good, just saying, that's what we had to do. And one of his things he would pray was for my mom to get better. And like, they encourage those kind of things, like, and it made it so like, oh, well, if you pray hard enough, like maybe, that kind of stuff. And so,
Oh, man.
yeah. Right. This is such a deep rabbit hole. Like, the way that I keep thinking of random things now that we're talking about it, like, oh, I could, woo. Yeah.
Now, we're in the metaphysical community now. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but, I'm not afraid of death. I mean, we all know now, or at least that's what's my belief. That is what my belief is. Death is an illusion. Our energy just moves on and transfers or whatever, where it's going. We're going back to the source,
Right.
and then you have like maybe a life review or something where you can see, hey, these are my lessons. This is what I learned. This is why I came here. But I don't believe that death is the end of it. It's just a transformation back into your source, into your original energy. And then maybe you just do it all over again, And so I'm not afraid of death. And so, hey, they can't scare me into anything anymore,
Right. No, definitely I've learned about the different past lives that I have.
Yeah.
I have learned about what I'm karmically doing in this particular life is a culmination of three and a little bit of a fourth, like life that I've done with like my karmic things. Like my wife and I have done our life before and it did not go good whatsoever. So this is like our second chance of doing that.
So you're working out your lesson.
And it's up to you, like if you want to repeat those lessons again, or if you
exactly
that you want to learn.
I think about that. I'm like, what if I change my mind about these lessons? Oh, this shit is rough. I love it.
No, yeah, man, it's not fucking easy. And it's also not easy learning about like, oh, these are the things that I pick.
And that's the whole thing, is internally having to understand that you have to take responsibility for it, is where religion comes in and saves people, because they're like, oh.
And then
I just have to ask for forgiveness, so I'm good.
So I'm good. There's no need to actually have to do shadow work and work on myself.
About that ever again.
Oh, and it's fun.
And all of the Easter eggs that I have in this life from my past lives. And then also, you can also set yourself up for success, because in one of my past lives, like, well, in both of them, I was an alcoholic. So I'm like allergic to alcohol in this life.
Wow.
So much so, there's like all of these different things that I cannot eat because it's connected to that. But I was like, no, bitch, you ain't doing this. We're going to shut you out. Yeah.
In any way we can.
I did have like other things that were from my past lives that carried over. Like I had an addiction phase that I was able to get out of and be in recovery for. But yeah, like the alcohol, like I can definitely see because it's so prevalent.
Yeah. Maybe we will make another episode about past lives and stuff like that. That would be interesting.
Oh, I am so down for that.
Let's do that. Let's do that. So next time, that's what we'll talk about. Okay. Any closing words from anybody before we go this time? No? Okay. Well, then I'm going to say something. Everybody, don't let anybody fear or scare you into doing something just because they feel like something else is going to, I don't even know I want to verbalize it. Okay. But be a good person anyway. Okay. Just be a good person, spread love, spread kindness, just because it's the right thing to do.
Real?
What?
Because what if Skydaddy isn't real and this whole time, then you've got
exactly. Okay.
Look, I'm going to end up in hell anyway if Skydaddy's real because I got questions, yo.
Yeah. I want to know.
Well, we'll see you there, Dawn. Bring your stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see you there. It's going to be a party.
Right? He's going to be like, this one again. You know?
That's funny. Be good people, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.